Warning! The following gameplay video was created by a scrub. If scrub gameplay disturbs you, stop the video now. Hello! Well, welcome to Mission 12. This has been a lot of videos for not very many missions, right? Well, we still have quite a bit to go. That's not really in as much suspense as it could be, considering the last mission. Well, that's the game telling you that Ryoko's team will arrive partway through this mission. I kinda stated it a video or two ago, but this means that Ryoko's team is going to gain the end of mission bonus and extra time. Also, we're starting to see consequences of fighting for a long time without supply or repairs. Well, very serious repairs. Sort of thing that needs a base. The good news is that Weizsäcker's AFW stats are not affected by this plot development. Still, Weizsäcker's attitude is correct. Not only is his life on the line, this one thing going wrong might be a sign that something is developing and more things might go wrong in the near future. Ayana might be in trouble. I think I kinda didn't catch why that was said. Well, more snow, of course. And this particular move takes some planning. Or at least it took me some planning. I want to move up towards that base because there aren't many enemies in that direction. The path across the lower bridge branches out, so I don't have the manpower to cover and split up and deal with all that at once. Besides which, the game just clued me in on reinforcements will be arriving on my side for once. The main thing I want to make sure of here is that I don't want to block he does punch things, to be fair. I don't want to block Ippei's movement forward. However, I also want to leave room for the four-legged AFWs to advance and back him up. So it took a bit of planning. I was considering moving Weizsäcker into the woods, but with a little bit of putting the movements together in my head, it turned out that I could just move him one space forward on the road and that would work out fine. Well, the movement would work out fine. The battle, we haven't seen that yet. Well, since we already know what's going to happen here... Actually, no we don't. They have two skills that are going to give me trouble if left alone. One is E-Wire and the other is Mines. And I'm about to show you, first of all, why it's extremely important to bring both cleanup and repair. And the other is why cleanup is so powerful. If it was a frontline skill, then that would be a different story. However, since it's the backline, I can just wait a few seconds for it to charge up, and it'll clear several obstacles if they have to. So even though they have a full squad build specifically designed to stop anti-AFWs like mine, it did not actually affect me much. And that's yet another reason why AFWs are a little bit overpowered in this game. Did I say just AFWs? I meant to say anti-AFWs. Anyway. Since we have a little bit of time to just move around and figure things out, I'd like to talk about a couple of other tactics games that I enjoy. Let's talk about classic XCOM. Well, for those who have not played it, try to imagine a game where, in the early game, they are roughly as expendable, your units I mean, where your units are basically infantry or similar things from, oh, I don't know, Advance Wars. Like, losing them is not a huge deal, which is good because you're gonna lose them fast and easily. However, as they start to develop their skills, they become incredibly valuable, but still die easily in many cases. There are a lot of unfair things because you are puny Earthlings fighting aliens. I don't know what you would expect. They're using plasma guns and you're using bullet guns. However, you can reverse engineer their technology little by little and start to break the game with it. Which is good because they're doing completely unfair things, like by the base rules, if any alien sees any of your units and there's a psychic alien, they can then target any of your units for psychic warfare no matter where they are. And they know who the easy targets are. The way that you counter this when you get psychic powers is you need to at least know where an alien is first. However, you can control an alien, have it go and look around and find other aliens, and then control or panic them. And if you plan well, you can be better with that sort of thing than they are. Also, there's a couple of particularly broken weapons in the late game that can pretty much clear any map from the comfort of your landing craft. Well, while I was talking, Weizsäcker punched away an attack from that same light AFW, and now it should be pretty easy to finish off. Now, here's a problem with my squad composition. In the previous map, 3 of my 4 AFWs were geared for getting rid of soldiers, and this turned out to be very useful. In this case, only John can do it. He's gonna have to work overtime, except he's kind of in the back line, so he's not gonna get attacked a lot, and also he gets his turns kind of slowly, because that's how his AFW works. So I'm gonna have to pretty much face these guys head on and deal with at least some of them without actually getting rid of their squads. There will have to be tricks involved. and it takes some planning, because the game kind of expected me to do this, but it doesn't actually matter, because it may be triggered by movement, but it's also triggered by time. You can't do much to prevent those guys from appearing for long. This mission is designed to put you in a pinch like that. So the main thing I'm figuring out is who's going to finish off that light AFW and how I should move Weisegger. The main thing I'm concerned about is that those enemies might pile up on him, because they like to do that in general. However, the design of the terrain means that they can't actually do that very effectively. Only one of those guys can actually reach him. So it should be okay to move him forward. Well, back to XCOM. As you can imagine, with a DOS game that had a pretty large, or at least pretty dedicated fan following, there have been many mods. A fair number of them were for adding new weapons or different kinds of maps, and also towards fixing the problems perceived by a lot of the audience. And this battle is going to be easy. I can just finish him off with one accurate fire. Anyway, so there's things like changing psychic powers to line of sight to make it a lot less broken on both sides, and balancing out some of the weapons and adding some more interesting options, making the tech tree more complicated and more rewarding. There's just lots of stuff on there. And the one that I like to use is Final Mod. I think I have some gameplay of that on my channel, actually. I really like what they did with it. And I think that it's just overall a lot of fun once you figure out how it works. Of course, the base game also breaks pretty hard when you know how it works, but that's what the mods are for. Also, I kind of like this conversation because Ippei says that all he taught her was how to fight and kill people, but it's pretty clear he's not giving enough credit because while raising her, he also taught her about things like getting along with other people, the sort of general wisdom of living a decent life. I know it's really vague, but unfortunately so is the conversation, so there's not too much I can take from it. But I guess the best way I can put it is that he did his best to teach her how to be a decent person, and it's hard to ask for more than that. And I think that's what she was trying to say too. Well, I'd rather not get into a huge brawl. Well, that's what Smokeshot is for, of course. But my guess was that it was best to take shots at the AFW instead of the squads. Because he's not going to be able to kill a squad like this. His target is infantry, which is high armor, and getting rid of the enemy shield with a shot or two would be pretty nice. Ooh, I was taking a risk there. I was hoping I could throw off their aim. But that's how random things work out. Turns out it works both ways, which is really nice. I guess I shouldn't really talk about classic XCOM without mentioning the XCOM remake, because I've played both of those things. For one thing, I appreciate that the difficulty settings work right out of the box. If you played classic XCOM, you know what I'm talking about. I also like that they kind of read the way that people played classic and what was important to them. So they included things like Iron Man and dealt with a couple of issues that were kind of famous in the original. Yeah, so I kind of knew that if their squads were moved forward and I wanted to keep mine back, I was not going to keep my shield. I did miss being able to fully customize the loadout of my squads, or my soldiers, in the XCOM remake, because you could do a lot of different things with the loadout in Classic. That was one of my favorite things, but that's alright. I felt okay with it because a lot of the gameplay was less random. Well, of course there was still percentage to hit and critical hits, but these were factors that were easier to control. I did, however, dislike the whole enemies get a free move when they're discovered thing, because a lot of the gameplay around XCOM was you need to spot the aliens and get them with a shot before they spot you, because they were super lethal. And so figuring out ways to do that was a big part of the game, and I kind of missed that. So for this move, that anti-AFW was clearly moving towards me, and under most circumstances I don't want it to walk up and hit John. However, this one has a recon, which will probably be a weakness. The reason is, they will be compelled to attack. That's how their AI works. And they will be compelled to move onto a river to do it and attack at medium range. Both of which will be very bad for them. What I'm giving up to do this is that John could move forward and instead bombard the squads of that medium AFW that just went forward. So it's a little bit of a risk, but I can't really think of a better way to handle that situation off the top of my head. So, back to the XCOM remake. One of the things I did like was that the way your soldiers developed was a fair bit easier to understand and was something you could plan for a little bit better. Now, my first guess at that was no, because Weizsäcker is not an overall very happy person. But if you actually say no, she will say that Weizsäcker is clearly lying. Like it's written all over his face or something. Now that was a strange conversation from my perspective, because I haven't really seen Weizsäcker talk much about that issue. Like, it came up at the very start of the game, and that was about it. So this might have happened in background conversations back at base that the player was not told about. Which makes me kind of wish that I had seen some of that kind of content. Because that's the sort of thing that could really flesh out the characters. Well, I was afraid of this. That really bulky anti-AFW is going to be the biggest problem, I'd say. For the rest of them, Ipe can pretty much just beat them up. And we'll see how I handle that next video. Later.